Hey, how goes it? So, you started your sprinkler system, and excuse me, I just finished my lunch. But there's a valve that won't shut off. It's running constantly. You turn it off at the controller, you've turned it on and off again at the controller, and it just won't turn off. It's a real common issue that we see during the startups is the valve just won't turn off. So let's take a look. So this is the valve that won't shut off, okay? I've already got it taken apart a little bit, but before you take it all apart and get down into the inners workings of it, what you should try to do first is take the solenoid and unscrew it all the way off and remove it. And be careful not to set this in the dirt. I mean, this is supposed to be clean stuff here. We got it off, and then before you do that, you'll want to turn your main water off. So over there at the backflow, you can turn it off, and then you can unscrew that, take it completely off, and then go turn it on and off a couple times. Turn it on and off a couple times, and flush water through this hole. And then this particular valve has like a little bleeder screw, which a lot of them do have little bleeder screws on them. I call it a bleeder screw for the lack of a better term to call it that. But you can also unscrew that all the way and turn it on and off a couple times. And what I do is I'll turn it on and off a couple times with just this open. I'll turn it on and off a couple times with just this open. And then I'll also turn it on and off a couple times with them both open, and flushing it in all three of those configurations, and then put it back together and try it again. If it still won't turn off, then you got to come take it apart. And when you take apart these things, you got to be careful with it, because they're different valves are put together differently. So I just took this off here, and I'm gonna flip it over. This usually won't come off. This usually sticks to the valve, but there's a spring in there, and that thing can just fall right off there. So be mindful of how this stuff goes back together, and be mindful of keeping it very clean. Anytime you're doing stuff with valves, or most anything in the sprinkler world, it's very surgical, meaning you want to keep everything clean. So this is going to be like that on top of there, and this little nipple sits right in there, like so. The seat's in there nice. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it off and show you what the problem is. So what happens is that it's still running, and sometimes it's running like wide open, and other times it's just kind of barely running a little bit. In most cases, when it's barely running, you'll see on this diaphragm all these little pits in the rubber. It doesn't take much, but you can see, like up here, there's no pits. It's a nice clean rubber, and that little indentation is where it seals the water off. Now I rotate this and look at up here. We've got little pits. So if you got grains of sand or little pebbles that are floating around down inside your valve, when it shuts off, they get pinched right here. And if they get pinched enough times, they'll make an indentation in here, and that's all it takes to have a valve that won't close off. And it seals to this part right here. And there again, different valves are a little bit different, but the general concepts are the same. And so a running valve is going to be a diaphragm. In some cases, when it's running wide open and it's not just slowly leaking, it could be a bad solenoid. So before you change and get down in here, it might be simply just take off a solenoid, and I wouldn't wire it in or do anything and think you got it figured out. Take the solenoid off and then just screw the new one on. You should be able to turn it on, and that solenoid will be closed up right away, and you'll know it's a solenoid. But you'll see this one here, it doesn't even have that indentation ring because it's a brand new diaphragm. Yeah, let's make sure we can get this back together the way it's supposed to be, huh? There we go. And then tightening these up. When you're putting these solenoids back on, you know, the threads in particular, a lot of them are fine threads, so you got to really, you know, be careful. You're not just wrenching that thing on there. It should turn on quite easily. Righty tighty. Tighten it up. Get this bleeder screw back in here. So the cool part about this system is it's got a meter on it, and so I could barely hear it because it was just barely running. But I knew something was running somewhere because I looked at my meter and it was rotating. So I'm going to go turn the backflow on. Nice and slow. Problem solved. Catch you on the next one, guys.